peaceful intro music. Welcome to an episode of Jiu Jitsu Therapy with Chris Mize. That is me, Coach Chris Mize. I'm here today with two of our local finest, some of the police from our local area here, different departments. We're going to leave them without saying their names today so that they can speak freely and not have to worry about anything. Also, here, Coach Michael McGrath's here with us. Coach Chris Bowen running the boards, the man that makes it happen. Couldn't do it without Coach Chris Bowen, and we appreciate him. And also, if you're not listening to the Furlough podcast, please do so. That's Coach Chris Bowen's baby, and it's very entertaining, and you need to give it a shot. Again, we appreciate you listening with us today. Today's topic is something that I consider very important, and it's a little bit different than some of the stuff we normally talk about, but I think it's very important that we kind of address it, maybe start some dialogue just between people, and maybe something might get done about it. But talking about law enforcement and Jiu Jitsu and training and everything, so much is always happening about law enforcement guys are always getting in trouble because they're apparently using too much force in certain areas and things of that nature. And so I just kind of wanted to bring in some guys that have real firsthand experience. And both these guys, they train jiu-jitsu. So, again, they're already in the minority. I mean, they do work outside of their work to prepare for work, which is awesome. And I really respect that. But they understand that it's something that really is something that needs to be done, and maybe hopefully we can give some strategies today to try to maybe make that more common, that officers will train jiu-jitsu. So guys, we'll just kind of just open it up a little bit. So one, we all do jiu-jitsu, so we kind of understand the value of it, but how important, I know it's just a basic question, how important do you think jiu-jitsu is for a law enforcement officer?
Yeah, very important. That hands-on almost comes, daily in our line of work, whether it be not just with me, but within every department. So I think controlling is the main goal.
Yeah, I would say definitely you have to prepare yourself physically. You're trying to take away somebody's freedom, and a lot of grown men don't necessarily want that to be their reality. And whether you're going to train another martial arts or jiu-jitsu, I think it's important to train. I prefer jiu-jitsu myself because it kind of gives you an opportunity to be, without having to hit them, and kick them, punch them, you can grapple up with somebody, and I think it's the safest outcome for both the officer and the offender.
Well, I think it's definitely jiu-jitsu, because of the connection component of it. It allows you to really kind of maintain connection and energy, and maybe dissipate energy and control more, because you're kind of connected to the person versus trying to disengage where you can strike. Like I said, striking always looks bad when you're having to you're behind in time when you're having to hit somebody. And again, that's I know that's really rough on you guys, because you guys are professionals, but when you watch a video, which they're everywhere, a body cam video or something, and you see somebody, you see officers having to strike somebody with their fists and stuff like that. I know that's really, that's kind of showing a sign that things are really out of control. Of course, that's before at least they maybe didn't draw their weapon right out of the gate. So that was another good thing. But have you ever dealt with people in the field that you felt were trained? I mean, that guys that had trained, or most of the people you run across are just,
I would say, by and large, most people are untrained. If they've trained in something, it's usually a boxing or something like that, where they want to immediately throw their hands up and try to take wild shots at you. And again, the jiu-jitsu is great for kind of immobilizing people and preventing them from hitting you in the head.
I agree with that. Same thing.
We were wondering, just because, like I said, we're just coming off one of the big UFCs as of late, and everybody watches the UFC now, and of course watching it and being able to do it are two different things, but they still people pick up stuff from watching stuff, especially since it's been going on for 20 years now. So yeah, I think people are smartened up about it. So, I mean, you have to be prepared. And, I mean, we still have people come into the school that are quote unquote trained individuals that don't have a clue how to deal with jiu-jitsu. I mean, they still do headlocks and they still do stuff. You'll be rolling with them and they're trying to headlock you and do everything else. And people can say what they want to. An untrained person under stress in close contact in a grappling range will headlock you. And that's why we spend time working on the headlock defenses, because it's like a hardwired thing that happens in people's brain. You have to train yourself not to do it, I think. So, I mean, that's definitely something that everybody has to be aware of. Do you think that that you guys, or I won't say you guys, because like I said, you guys train, but do you think that a lot of in the profession that people feel like they go, or they probably don't feel like it, but do you think that they rely on the other equipment on their belt a little too quickly? I mean, like whether it be, pepper spray is one thing, stun gun, and of course firearm, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree that they feel like they have tools on. They feel like they don't need to necessarily train as much. Mm-hmm. We've all heard 1,000 times, why would I train 5-10 hours a week? I've got a gun on my hip, I'll just shoot you. Well, that's not the reality for most people, and most officers will never draw their weapon out. And,
Your Honor.
Yeah, Your Honor, that's right.
So,
well, yeah, that's the stuff you expect, like I said, the redneck down the road to say. You don't expect a professional to say that, because, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But, I get it.
Well, I think the problem with that is, if your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So
that is a great quote.
You got to put some extra tools in your tool bag.
Right. Or at least you have something, have a screwdriver.
It's been told to me by a fellow officer that to disengage enough to get to the things on their belt. And I don't agree with that, because you've got to be able to control to even get loose or to get to your things on your belt.
How are you going to cuff?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, yeah. That's not a good thing. It's just like I was doing a course a week or two ago, and the 21-foot rule came up about someone drawing a knife versus a firearm. And I was saying, data shows if somebody's running at you with a knife, if they're within 21 foot of it, they're going to get you before you can draw and shoot them. So you've got to address the blade before, you've got to deal with that. If your whole thing is you think you're going to quick draw and pull out and shoot somebody and stop them, not that it's going to probably stop them anyway, probably when you hit them with it once. But so you have to be able to do that. And a lot of people don't think that. I tell everybody, a lot of people spend a lot of time on ranges anyway, firing and doing stuff like that. And most self-defense shooting and things of that nature is going to be a lot closer, and you're going to be under duress, and there's going to be pressure on you. So people don't even usually train or even think about the hands-on necessary to actually draw a weapon in a real physical altercation. Anyway, it's different than what people imagine. It's like when you're thinking about fighting somebody, you're the one doing all the punching. Right. You're not thinking about somebody hitting you in the head while you're hitting them in the head. So it's that untrained, simple mentality on it.
Well, most interactions aren't going to take place within 21 feet. They're going to take, place within 5 feet to 7 feet. So you've got to be a lot better responsive.
Right.
Well, I think when people train, they don't think about the totality of the fight. What if it is a lethal engagement and I need to pull my weapon, but what if my opponent grabs onto the weapon, or what?
Right.
Now it's a grappling match over a firearm. It's some pretty serious ramifications.
Right. Weapon retention, is huge. And I say weapon retention, it means once the weapon is out and holding on to it and, going through all that process, and whether they have the weapon, people will do disarms, but they don't ever work. Disarms, they're usually pitiful. But they don't ever, like I said, work the retention end of it. So when we start trying to, so the thing that gets asked is, why don't law enforcement, why don't LEO, why don't they like to train jiu-jitsu, or why don't they? I know a lot of them, they work out. They'll go and hit the weight rooms. Well, I say a lot, I don't know, but I say they'll do that. Guys will do that before they'll train, combatives arts or something like that, just to try to do stuff. What do you think are some reasons that you guys kind of hear? Because like I said, you guys do it, but so it's the same thing. And I know both you guys have families. You know, you're different age kids now, and you've been through it all, and then so you're dealing with that family stuff too. Why do you think guys don't like to train?
I think the first thing is the time commitment. You know, a lot of guys, especially younger guys in policing, have pretty terrible hours, I would say. You know, they're working midnight shifts, they're working 12-hour days, what have you. Some gyms are starting to pick up on that a little bit, and Heroes now has a morning class and kind of allows some law enforcement officers to come in.
So it boils down to opportunity of time
Opportunity.
Correct. Opportunity of time, and then, you know, those that
for even instruction, more so than their time, just instruction
Right.
being available.
Well, you get that mentality too. I mean, it's just like with kids. A lot of times, dads, usually martial arts training is a reactive thing. Little Johnny's getting picked on at school, and we want to try to get him some confidence. And I don't want to just tell him to go punch Billy in the face, that. And so we need to, he's already kind of beat down mentally a little bit. We need to put him in problem, get him some confidence. So it's not ever usually proactive. Like I said, it's always kind of reactive. But a lot of times, dads, I think, because I've had a couple over the years tell me, well, I just think I could teach him everything he needed to know. And then they get in there and they're like, hey man, I didn't have a clue what was going on. I mean, it's just a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I've had dads tell me that. And just because people think that it's nothing, they think that, because I think a lot of the McDojo kind of mindset is, they're there to kind of take your money, and it's just like doing whatever, gymnastics or going to acting class or something,
Well, And I think another thing about that is grown men tend to vastly overestimate their own abilities. And you get a bunch of cops around each other and type A personalities, and
Right.
Nobody's going to beat me.
Right.
So why would I go spend money and time to learn this Jiu Jitsu thing? And
Right.
I was around that 2 weeks ago with a bunch of law enforcement guys that gave that persona.
Oh, it's a
You know what
thing.
I'm saying? I'm just like,
Well, you've been, both of you guys have been, you're military guys, too. And, when you're talking about guys in different groups, that's pretty common too, But I mean, a lot of those guys train. And I had one of my friends over in Atlanta that was in a group, and he was talking about, we were talking about martial arts. Everybody thinks that we know all this stuff. He said, all we know how to do is just, shoot and blow stuff up. That's about it. They don't do that much, hand-to-hand stuff unless it's their thing. They like it. They're passionate about it. Like you're like Jocko Willink or something. He loves jiu-jitsu. That's why he's always done it. It was the opportunity was there. He did it, and it's just stuck. But a lot of times that's not something across the board. It's just something you have to have a passion for it to pursue it.
One of the first things that we hear in jiu-jitsu is leave your ego at the door. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people can't do that in this line of work, and exactly goes to what he was saying.
I understand the confidence that you have to have, but to me, I guess, being on the end where I've worked with a lot of law enforcement guys and kind of see guys come out of that mentality and think, because I mean, we've had people come in the gym and they think one thing, and sometimes it may not be a good fit for them, and then they come back, and then it might be a better fit for them when they come back because they have to see it, and maybe their perspective and role might change also. But exposure to stuff, any kind of information, I think is the main thing. But what do you think from a perspective of a club like ours? What could we do as far as developing programs? I'm just talking about general things. I'm not talking about just our gym and stuff. But what do you think jiu-jitsu could offer that would make it better for cops to train? I mean, I'm not talking about, I know you're talking about, time commitment, and you're talking about money, and you're talking about the ego thing. But tactically, what could we try to focus a little more on to where maybe it was a little, for lack of a better term, sexier, to where guys would want to do it a little bit more versus, here, let's take our vest off and our belt off and roll around on the ground getting hot and sweaty, and then let's eat some chicken nuggets and put our stuff back on and have to go back and, work,
Well, I think the Gracies are definitely onto something with their academy that they train specifically law enforcement officers, especially on things that they do every day, taking people down and proper handcuffing technique, and focusing on those sorts of things. And as far as the time commitment, maybe seminars, maybe reaching out to the departments around here and going there would be the answer, rather than trying to get people on an individual basis to come to a certain club.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good thing. I think with those guys, they've definitely that's something that definitely works. And when you see what they're doing, it does. And so it seems strange to me that people aren't. And I know that there's some training programs that like Alabama uses and some of the southeastern states, and so it's just. And both of you guys are very familiar with those, and I think they're based in jiu-jitsu. But jiu-jitsu, like I said, is one of those things you can't just kind of just catch it gradually, just barely just pay attention to it and be able to get it. You can't do it once a year.
Well,
And,
I think a lot of people don't know that those systems are based off of jiu-jitsu, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the lack of knowledge of what jiu-jitsu is. A lot of people think of jiu-jitsu and they just think MMA and they think UFC.
right.
They don't think about the controlling aspect that we were touching on earlier.
Well, and I think the state requires 24 hours a year recertification for those systems, and just 24 hours a year, 3 days. It's just not enough. You just can't train enough for the fight of your life, and you never know when it's coming. So,
Well, one of the things we've been working on recently for us is doing and you haven't got to see any of it yet because of just when you have to train. But we'll try to make that better. I know that you're fixing to have to do some stuff too, but developing some drills that guys can work and not have to, get down to t-shirt and sweatpants to have to do it. Some stuff, some hand drills and things that guys can do to help their different things, whether it be from weapon retention stuff to being hand fighting to being everything, because that's where it all starts. So we've been playing with that for a little bit, trying to make those things and hopefully be able to pass that on to where guys can actually try to do it, even if they didn't ever train with us. Just getting the information out there where guys could do it, because to me it's very important. And we were one of the guys showed us a video over at Cahaba a couple of weeks ago. It was when the officer went into the guy's house to arrest him, and he had he had taken some stuff from a Dollar General or something, and she went in to arrest him, and her body cam was on. She was a small female officer, and anyway, he came down off the stairs and just pinned her arms to her chest, and she kind of freaked out. And then when she got loose, she drew her weapon and fired and hit his mother. And it was bad. It was a bad scene, and like I said, it was one of those things that if she could have known to something that we just do because we train, but you had the audio too, and she was definitely out of her comfort zone. I mean, he was a big guy, but she should have been able to probably gotten away from it. He had her for quite a while.
There's a lot of things that went wrong in that video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
From a professional standpoint, I mean, she should have never gone in the house by herself, for one, and should have never engaged. And then not being trained, you could tell she was not trained. And then when she did engage,
It went bad.
she kind of took it upon herself because she kind of grabbed him first. He was trying to go up the stairs, and she went to grab him, and then he became combative. And it was just.
well, bad tactics aside, she got grabbed onto, and then she was completely, her combat mindset was just not there. She was in the black. And that's another thing training will do. You get trapped under people long enough, and you learn how to kind of deal with those emotions.
Yeah. We're doing a podcast on that soon too.
Yeah.
We do so much guard work in jiu-jitsu because really the system is based up from that, being in the worst positions. What do you guys think? If we tried to really try to. I know you work that bad position thing, but if we tried to maybe kind of present it as working the top more, and I think that's even what Henry and Huron they're doing. They're doing that. We don't want to get down on the ground with people. Heck, even as jiu-jitsu people, we don't want to get down if we're out on the street. As Greg Nelson says, the tar is not a good place to be. You don't come out of that unscathed, regardless of the best scenario. So just trying to one again, that's part of the education. The fact that you said or we were talking about. I think we said it even on here. We were talking about how somebody you work with didn't even know the difference between the two. The fact if you don't know the difference between jiu-jitsu and karate or whatever, Krav Maga and jiu-jitsu, if you don't know the difference between those two things, like I said, top position, bottom position is not going to make any difference. They just don't understand the difference. This is the thing I do with my kids when we do hand fighting and stuff. I tell them, if you're standing up straight up and hand fighting, that's just ridiculous. Because I mean, if you're just standing, it's just like, it looks like those old Jiu Jitsu videos of 1970s where guys were doing like, you know, the little wrist locks and things. They're just standing straight up and doing moves to each other. In reality, your base is going to be low and you're fighting the base. So you've got to be able to do that. Everything is almost like a wrestling lower base stance. And that's the way the street is too. Nobody's going to sit there and just stand, you know, straight up tall and do stuff. So you have to train in that type scenario. Everybody's base is going to drop or you're going to fall down. Then you end up falling, then things are bad. But anyway, guys, anything else that you guys think about? I appreciate you coming in today and talking about stuff. I think, like I said, anything that we can do to try to make things, I don't know, I know it all comes down to communication and education. That's what we talk about, everything. But we know that it's an issue, and like I said, we're trying to come up with solutions. I know it's not necessarily our job to do it. We're just trying to come up with better training modalities, I think, to do. So
I think education's the thing. You know, individual officers need to kind of take some responsibility for their own safety and their own training. You know, the guys got to get there and train. You can't run and lift enough to win your fight. You know,
True.
If you're just in shape, that's going to help you chase somebody down. What are you going to do when you grab onto them? So,
Right.
You may grab onto a live one.
That's right.
That's true.
And I don't care how much you can bench press. If you get stuck underneath a brown belt, you're going to find out you grab a grown man.
Yeah, I hear guys talking about, you know, all the time, what can you bench? What can you bench? I'm like, well, I hope it's a person, because when they get on top of you, then you better use that some way.
Yeah, you better be good at benching a bag of Jello.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little bit tougher. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, everything, even with that mentality, says that is all about everything that a jiu-jitsu guy looks for. You're looking for somebody to try to press you away in that situation. Not only are you going to get punched in the face, but you're going to, you know. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming in. I think it's something that I'm passionate about, and you guys know it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys, you know, training, you know, at our schools. But, you know, like I said, we can just try to do the best we can. And like I said, we need to support our law enforcement officers in our communities too. I think there's a lot of communities that they do not get that from the community they're in. And we really need to do that, and not just tell them how to do their job. That's not our job to do. But, you know, try to do things to try to help them out so that they can educate themselves better. You know, we're kind of thinking about some things, trying to do stuff that we can do to help on our end. But, you know, like I said, just tell the cops in your community how much you appreciate them and all, because, I mean, when we train guys and girls, you kind of have two mindsets. One, you have people that you're trying to train so that they can escape. That's your average people. And then you've got protectors like you guys. And a majority of our people, even just the regular dads in our school, they're protectors. You know, you're a protector of your family, of everything else. But if you're training a 9-year-old little girl, you know, she's not a protector. Her job is to try to escape, you know. So, I mean, the training is similar but different. And I think that's how people need to address it too. I mean, within the schools. I mean, we don't train everybody the same. You know, we share information differently and try to, you know, try to do that. I think that's the thing. You know, people need to understand that all training is not the same too. So we try to reach out and coach, and we're always trying to improve our training methods. You know, we were training yesterday. We were over in Atlanta training, and we're always just trying to do better at that so we can learn better tactics to use. But again, guys, thanks again for coming in. And folks, thank you for listening to the Jiu-Jitsu Therapy Podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't already. This year's plan is to try to get on some other formats to make it easier for you guys. We're working on that. But try to listen and try to recommend us to people. That's the best way you can help us out. Comment, and if you have any great suggestions for some topics, we would love to hear them. Until next time, have a good one.